Welcome to DeFiChain Demystified, where we dive deeper in special topics around our project. The goal is to bring answers to some tricky questions and maybe bust some myths. We are
Kügi,
and Lord Mark, and today's topic is
what's the truth about the impermanent loss?
fantastic. Kügi, welcome back to the show. Good to have you. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. We have an interesting topic today.
We have a seriously interesting topic. So we did a little bit a kind of a pre-show where we discussed what we want to talk about. And I think we're going to bust a couple of myths and we're going to explain some really, really interesting facts and features. Kügi, I think we just jump right in. We switch to your fantastic graphics that you prepared. And then, no, they're super helpful. We got very, very positive feedback. Simple but effective. That's very important. Okay, Kügi, let's start. What do we want to talk about in detail?
Today, no animations.
Sorry. That's
As always, the impermanent loss. The history of the impermanent loss is a history full of misunderstandings, as we always say.
As always.
If we talk about the impermanent loss, because the impermanent loss is a thing, a myth that's floating around for a long time, and everybody seems to understand different things about it. But if we want to understand the impermanent loss, we need to start deeper or at the beginning. So again, let's go into the details first. When we talk about impermanent loss, it's regarding DEX, it's regarding a pool on the DEX, and it's regarding the automated market making and how that works. So we have here a nice graphic of a pool on our DEX. Such a DEX pool always consists of two assets, and within this pool, those two assets are per definition always the same value. So you have a number of coins on each side. So in this case, it's USDD and DFI pool. Actually, the asset itself, the tokens, doesn't matter what it is. For the pool, for the mechanics, for the logic behind it, it's all the same. Just use USDD DFI because then it's a bit easier to
So it could be bananas and pineapples would work exactly the same in some way.
If you do a DEX tokens for that and do a pool for that, works exactly the same. Okay. Exactly. So it's just tokens on the left side and the right side. And we just say now we have 100 tokens of USDD on the left side and 10 tokens of DFI on the right side. Mm-hmm. And as I said, per definition, the pool says the amount of tokens on the right side has the same value as tokens on the left side. That's the definition of the pool. There is no what's the price of the left side or the right side. Because of this number of tokens on the left side and number of tokens or coins on the right side, we have the ratio. And this ratio, so this pool currently has a ratio of 100 to 10, which means in this pool, one DFI is now worth 10 USDT. No matter what's the external price or how it's traded somewhere else, that's what this pool defines, because the pool knows nothing about the outside world. It doesn't care about the outside world. This is what the pool does. And if you own 1% of this pool, if you add liquidity to this pool, if you add liquidity, you always have to add liquidity in the current ratio of the pool. So it doesn't matter what's happening outside. If you want to add liquidity to this pool, you need to add 10 USDD for every DFI that you're adding. So for example, you could add 0.1 DFI and 1 USDD. Then you own 1% of the pool, and the ratio doesn't change. The ratio between the left and the right, it's just in total more tokens in this pool, more liquidity in the pool. But when you add liquidity, it doesn't change the ratio. Same when you remove liquidity, you would always remove, no matter what you put in the first place, you will always remove it at the current ratio of the pool, 50-50 in value. And the value again is the pool decides that the value is exactly 50-50 between those coins. So that's how the pool itself works, how the tokens are. The only thing that changes this ratio within the pool is a swap. So let's look at the swap. Let's say someone decides to put in one DFI and wants to swap DFI for USDT. So on the one side, we put in DFI, one DFI, and now we want to know how much USDT will we get out for this one DFI. And here comes the math. Today we have math. It's simple, but that's the fundamental formula for every automated market maker, basically. Because when you talk about automated market maker, it means exactly this mechanism that we say a market maker is someone who makes a market, who provides liquidity to people who want to swap. And the automated market maker is exactly this pool that we say we have a liquidity in the pool, and there is some logic behind that. If you swap in, put in one DFI, you get a price in USDT out.
But that means, Küge, sorry to interrupt, this automated market maker is not a super complicated whatever in the background. It's a simple formula. So it's very transparent. It's not a black box. Everybody knows, everybody can see exactly how the pool works, right?
Exactly. The automated market maker is just this ratio of assets in the pool. And the formula is pretty simple. It's just like the number of tokens on the one side multiplied by the number of tokens on the right side needs to be constant. So my reserve in DFI times my reserve in USDT is a constant number. And this constant number, it's different constant number for each pool. But within this pool, this constant number is not changing, and especially not changing by a swap. So if you add liquidity to the pool, you add it on both sides, the ratio stays the same. But through the swap, you don't change that number. So now you have 10 DFI in, you have 100 USDT in, 10 times 100 is 1,000. And now the question is, when we add one DFI, what will happen? A bit more errors, a bit more stuff. But afterwards, after we swapped, we will have the number of DFI that we had before, plus the one DFI that we put in. And this new reserve in DFI times the resulting reserve in USDT, so our reserve what we had before minus the output, needs to be the same constant. We know 10 plus 1, we can do that, is 11. 11 times something needs still to be 1,000. So we know that this 1,000 can be calculated by this number can be calculated by 1,000 divided by 11.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not a nice number, but okay. So we know afterwards there will be 90.90, and actually it's 90.90 USDT in the pool, which means from 100 to 90.90 we get 9.09090909 USDT out. And that's it. That's how the automated market maker works. That's how a swap works. That's the logic behind it. There is nothing more to it. But there's a lot of implications. And first, just one thing that we don't miss it, because all these calculations is now without any fees. Just that we once mentioned it, if you have fees, the logic is still the same. It's just when you put in something, first you get taken the commission that reduces your input into the swap. If there's a fee on one of the sides, an in fee or out fee, this get taken from your input. So you pay the fee, then you do the swap, and then you get the out fee. And from the out fee, from the result that you get out of the swap, the out fee is reduced or taken from the result, and then you get a reduced result. So that reduces your outcome, but the logic, the calculations within the swap are the same.
Okay, so that means, to sum it up, the ingoing fees impact the value that goes into the pool, and then there are fees that impact the outcome at the end. But the calculation is the same, isn't affected by any fees at all. It's just little.
Exactly.
Okay.
The swap itself is the same. It's just as it says, in fee is the fee that's on the inside, on the move in. Out fee is the fee on the move out. And now we say, okay, this is the changed pool. We had first 100 to 10. We had this formula, and now we have 90.90 on the USDT side and 11 on the DFI side. And again, now the pool says, per definition, 90.90 USDT are worth the same amount, has the same value as 11 DFI. And therefore, if we divide that, we see now this pool defines one DFI is worth 8.26 USDT. And that's how the pool changed. One important thing to note here is that we had a price of 10 USDT per DFI. We swapped in one DFI, but we didn't get the full 10 USDT because we swapped in a big amount compared to the liquidity, because there's 10 DFI liquidity in, and we swap in 10% of the liquidity. So we move the pool a lot, so we have slippage. And that's the slippage that everybody is talking about when they say, okay, what's the slippage? Is we thought the pool was at 10 USDT per DFI, but we got out 9.09, so kind of 10% slippage, because we put in a lot of DFI. It's just, it's not exactly 10%, and it's just, that's random. That's, it's not always, if you put in 10% of liquidity, that you get a 10% slippage. The less ratio you put in, the less slippage you have, and it's going kind of exponentially. So if you get huge, if you put in like 10 DFI, you would have more than that slippage, or it's not linear, the slippage.
Short question. So that you mentioned slippage now. On the Light wallet, I can set something that is called slippage, but that's what I set there is not really the slippage, right? What I can set in Light wallet is more the max price. These are slightly different things.
That's the slippage. It is kind of the slippage, because when you think about it, I put in one DFI, then I get from this one DFI, I get taken commission, I get taken in fee, then I have the swap. This might change the price. Therefore, I get less out, and I get taken the commission out. The max price that's underneath, it's the max price, which also defines the max slippage, because when I say I want to swap one DFI and I want to get out minimum 9.5 USDT, I would need to set the max price. The max price wouldn't be one. I always have to think about if I divide it, I have to do one divided by 9.5, or the other way, what's the price? But it would be 1 divided by 9.5, the max price. So if I say I want to have at least 9.5, so the max price I want to pay is 1 divided by 9.5, then the node, the block, the chain would basically say, if I calculate the whole thing, I simulate that, and I don't get 9.5 out, so your swap is not going through. Okay. Because you said you want at least that amount, or you want to pay maximum that price, so it's that. And the Light wallet, if you put in a max slippage on the Light wallet, it just calculates from the current. So it would say, when I say I want a max 10% slippage, I think it's basically, it takes the current ratio of the pool, applies this 10%, and takes this number then for the max price. So it's basically the same thing, just that you put it in a slippage and not have to calculate a max price manually.
Okay.
And that's on the final price after fees and everything. So if there's a high fee, if there's a high commission or anything, you need to put in a big slippage. If you say we have 10% fee, 20% fee, commission or whatever, you need to have at least that amount of slippage allowed, because the slippage is really on the what you get in compared to what you get out, or what you get out compared to the current ratio of the price. So I hope that answers that. But what I wanted to mention here is, we have a 10 USDT ratio in the beginning. We get out 9.09, but we move the pool to 8.26. So basically, I mean, it's similar if you think about it as if you trade on a central exchange or on a normal exchange with an order book, and you pretend, because the automated market maker is basically filling the order book, if you compare it to an order book, filling it constantly with a constant liquidity up and down. And if you now do a big market order, you buy on each step in the order book, you buy that. So you move the price up to until you're filled, but your average price is somewhere in the middle between where you started and where the price ends. And that's the same here. We have a slippage for us, what we get at price, and the ratio afterwards is moved further than our slippage. So we are the executed price, the average executed price, as you call it like that, is basically somewhere in the middle between where we move the pool and what you get out.
So that means,
that's
Kügi,
just
if people compare automated market maker with an order book on a centralized exchange, then maybe the closest what comes to a centralized exchange would be an order that is made as a market order, where you don't have a limit, but he buys in certain increments, so the price gets constantly higher. So there are no gaps in the prices in some way. Is this the right way to explain that?
Yes, similar. So you're close. The rough idea is a market maker on a central exchange is usually puts limit orders at 0.1% above the price and below the price, and have this bracket where I say, okay, within this, and there are orders in that range. An automated market maker is basically doing that automatically and continuously. So you have your price, and on the minimum, if you would compare it on a minimum price change, so every 0.0001 cent, you have a limit order. The automated market maker puts everywhere a limit order. So your order book that would just go straight up in a constant line with these limits and down. So you have this liquidity where you say every step you have a limit order that you can fill. And you as a participant can't take a limit order. You can only do market orders, because you can only say, I want to buy now one, or I want to sell now one DFI and give me the USDD that I get. So it takes all these orders that are there, fills them, and the automated market maker basically immediately fills the gap below again continuously with orders at every little price tick. And so that's basically what they that. Therefore, you always have what we always say. You always have the same liquidity on every time, no matter when you look at it. You have the same liquidity in both directions, and it's always the full liquidity. And the price only moves if you swap. And you always need the same amount and the same volume to swap it, because no matter where you are, you always have this filled order book, and you always need to go through that order book to move the market. And it doesn't move because the market maker says, real price is here, I cancel my orders and put my orders up or something.
Okay.
It's always automated.
So very efficient in some way, because
efficient and agnostic in terms of where the fair value is. There is no fair value for the, as I said, that's the pool, and the pool has its own market. That it doesn't care where the price on the SEX is. If I'm at 10 USDD DFI, the pool is at 10 USDD DFI. If the price on the SEX is at $1, doesn't care. Maybe people buy now or sell now here and try it to arbitrage it around, but for the price itself, it's always within itself, perfectly balanced, 50-50 value. The coins are the truth, basically.
Okay, fantastic. So
that's basically how the swap works. I think we now have, I don't know how long in, but we established how a swap works, how the swap shifts the coin ratio in the pool, but the value ratio is always 50-50. And one more thing. So if you had 1% of the pool before, so your 1% was 1 USDD and 0.1 DFI. Afterwards, the pool shifts. We have a shift in the pool of 18% basically, and your 1% of the pool is now worth 1% of those coins and 1% of those coins. So now I have 0.909 USDD and 0.11 DFI. Important to note, I have more DFI and less USDD. So it's always, if the pool shifts, I get more coins of the coin that decreases in value. Because DFI now is worth less USDD. So DFI decreased in value kind of, and I got more DFI. That's the thing that sometimes people like Daniel Kagawa in the Fireside Chat mention as dollar cost averaging in and out during the pool. Because if you move in at 1 USDD to this 10 USDT per DFI into the pool, and then you stay in the pool, you get the rewards, and when DFI dropped, you get out afterwards, you basically continuously automated bought DFI with USDT, because you gave some USDT and you got some DFI.
So you bought
and the other
continuously the asset that is decreasing in price.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you are the automated market maker that continuously sets the orders. And if it goes the other direction, it's the same. If it goes up, if we started here and the price shifts up, we sell the asset that's increasing. So we would have sold, kind of, if you say it like that, 0.01 DFI and got USDT for it. So you dollar cost average in or out, if you want to see it like that in an automated way.
Okay, I think we can bust some myths here, right? Because there are some people out there that say if you pair DFI with a stablecoin, this is a bad idea. No, it's not a bad idea. It could be a strategy where you really dollar cost average in or dollar cost average out. So it's not bad. It really depends on your investment strategy. Correct?
Exactly. But I would go to the investment strategy after we answered our question about what is the impermanent loss, because we didn't even talk about the impermanent loss.
Sorry, I was jumping the gun here. Okay, I didn't want to take that away. Good. Then let's go there.
Let's go to the impermanent loss. So we have now these two states of the pool, where we said before we are in this state and now we are in this state. Pool shifted, the ratio in the pool shifted. What's the impermanent loss? So we have this down, and there are two sides of the loss. Let's not call it impermanent for now, just a loss, because the pool shifted, so I have a loss. And I have two ways that I can look at it. The first way is in coins. If I look at it in coins, first I had 1 USDT plus 0.1 DFI. Afterwards, I have 0.909 USDT and 0.11 DFI. But this additional 0.01 DFI that I got is only worth 0.0826 based on this ratio USDT now, which is less than the 0.09 USDT that I'm missing, because I'm missing here 0.09 USDT, which means in pure coins calculated, I lost 0.42%. It's also a bit the relation here. The whole pool moved by 18%. The ratio shifted by 18%, and I had an impermanent loss of 0.42%. So a bit to get the relation. And that's one side of this loss if you just think about coins. If you think about value, and that's something where most of the people think about when they talk about impermanent loss, it's what's my dollar value of those coins. And here we can't look at that just from the pool side, because the coins is just a pool. We don't need to know anything from the outside. In dollar value, I need a bit of a what is each side worth, because there is no dollar in here. So for simplicity, let's say 1 USDT stays at $1, exactly $1, and we do that. Then we had at the beginning 1 USDT is $1 plus 0.1 times $10, because of this ratio we know what it's worth is $2. Also important to note, the value of my whole share is exactly twice the value of one side of the share. As we said, the value of both coins, of both sides, is exactly the same. That's the definition of the pool. So we have $2 in the beginning value, and we moved that to $0.09 because we have USDT, plus 0.11 DFI times the 826. So I have now 1.818, again, twice that number, dollar value in my pool. So I have a loss here, but that's not the loss we are talking about, because the loss we are talking about is the loss compared to if I held the coins. Because if I didn't go into the pool, I just held my 1 USDT and 0.1 DFI in my wallet, I would still have $1 for the 1 USDT, and my 0.1 DFI would be worth 8.26 now. because that's the new ratio, then I got $1.826 worth now. And this difference is now the loss we are talking about when people talk about impermanent loss in your portfolio, when you compare holding the assets versus putting the assets into liquidity mining. And here you see that's a bit more than the loss in coins, because here we have 0.46% in dollars compared to the 0.42% in coins. Also important to note, we now have the case where DFI lost in value. It's 100% symmetric. So if it would move up by 18%, so by this, we have the same case, because for the pool, it doesn't matter which coin goes up or down. How the pool shifts in one direction is always just a comparison between asset A and asset B. That's why within the DEX, if you look at the full node and what you get from the chain, it's always an asset A, asset B, and it's just a comparison what's asset A worth in asset B and what's asset B worth in asset A. So even if we went the other direction, then we would have more USDD, less DFI, and still, if we moved by the same ratio, by the same percentage, we still have 0.42% in coins and 0.46% in dollar if we move up 17.4% up in this case.
Tricky, short question.
So this, yeah.
So we have a loss here, right? To a certain
Yes.
percentage. So now the following happens. Now everything reverses. Do we end up at the exactly same values, or is there something lost on the way that can't be recovered?
Thanks for that question. That was my next point.
See, how did I know that?
If we swap back, and now swapping back without fees and anything. So the swap that really hits the pool needs to be the same. If we now say, because we got 9.9 USDT out, if someone puts back in the 0.09 USDT, exactly those 0.09 USDT in, we now have 100 USDT in here, because this plus the 0.909 is 100, so we are back at 100, which also means, based on our formula that we had before, 1 times the other is the same constant, means we will get 1 DFI out.
Wow.
Because first was 11, we need to be the same ratio. So if we come back to exactly the same ratio, there is no loss, because we're back at the same ratio. It's still the same in there. So if it just fluctuates around the price, it's actually not losing anything, because it's just shifting the ratio back and forth, and afterwards we're back at the same state where we were before. Nothing changed. Okay. Pretty straightforward. No
Pretty
problem
simple.
here. Yes. Cool. So
why is it
if
now
we go
called
back,
this?
Nothing happens.
Okay, so that's the reason why it's called impermanent loss, as it seems, because it's
exactly. That's why people call it the impermanent loss, because as long as you stay in the pool, it's impermanent. You don't lose. You lose on paper. If you would go out now, you would make the impermanent loss permanent, and then you take the loss. If you stay in the pool and the pool shifts back, it's impermanent, because it's back to where it was before. So that's why it's usually called impermanent loss, because it's not a continuous loss. And that's also one important thing. If you are a liquidity provider, you put in liquidity and you therefore take the risk. On the one hand, you lock your capital. On the other hand, you take the risk of this loss. And for this, taking the risk and providing the liquidity, you are rewarded with the rewards and the commission. So you get something out of it. But there is a kind of imbalance between the perceived value of those, because the rewards are paid and commission are paid by every block. You continuously get the rewards. They accumulate over time, but after a certain time, when you go out, you suddenly have a loss. You suddenly really get or feel your loss that you have here, the 0.46%. You get that at once when you go out of the pool. So sometimes people are like, oh no, I closed my liquidity pool and now I have less USDD than I had before. Than I had before compared to when I moved into the pool. And forget that during the whole time, you added a lot of rewards because you accumulated rewards over time in your wallet. So that's something important to note here and to not forget that the rewards are paid continuously and the loss basically happens when you really realize it at the end.
And
but
realizing
don't
is leaving
forget
the pool.
that.
Okay.
If you leave the pool, you feel the loss, but don't forget that you got a lot of rewards before that, because otherwise.
Very, very good point. So it means in the moment when you leave the pool, the impermanent loss becomes permanent. But then you have to offset the rewards that you earned before against this impermanent loss. And this is most likely, correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why there are rewards, kind of to offset your risk as a liquidity provider. Is this
Exactly.
what you
That's exactly why we have rewards, because as a liquidity provider, you need some incentive to do that. You need some reason why you provide that liquidity and risk the loss. Because otherwise, why would anybody do that and risk the loss if there is no reward? There's the rewards and there's the commission. The question is always how big is the reward? The commissions are always there. The rewards are slowly going down. But you also need to consider the loss of an impermanent loss compared to what the reward is. Even if you are at a 10% per APR compared to a 0.46% loss, it's something. And there we come to the strategies that you had before, where it's important to understand that you get a loss, important to understand that you risk a loss, important to understand how big this loss can be, because it's far less than people think. If the pool shifts and the DFI moves, so in this case, one asset moves by 100% compared to the other asset, the impermanent the loss is about 5%. So compared to the 100% move, that's not that big. But it is there. You need to know and you need to understand that it's there and that it's happening. The other thing is you need to have an understanding of what pool you get into. Because that's the reason why people love the stablecoin pools. Because if you are in a stablecoin pool, there is a really, really low chance that this moves by 100%. Usually the stablecoin pools fluctuate over time around the same price. So if you go in, there's a low risk of having some significant loss from the shift of the pools. That's why stablecoin pools are so interesting. If you have a pool with one extremely volatile asset like DFI and against a stablecoin, you risk a stronger move and therefore a stronger shift in the pool and therefore a stronger loss. If you, for example, go into a pool like DFI BTC, you expect some shifts. We see shifts, but if the whole market pumps, it's more likely that DFI pumps 1,000% compared to USDD than that DFI pumps 1,000% against BTC. Just because when the whole market pumps, both will go up, they might move. But that's all basically your investment strategy, what you want to do. And for me, that's the beauty of DeFiChain, where we say, okay, depending on what you expect from the market, there is a good strategy possible on the market. So let's say, like Dene Kagara does it, that he says, when I'm expecting a sideways market or a down market, I go into the USDD DFI pool, because then I get rewards, I get cash flow during a side market or down market. If it's a down market, I even dollar cost average into DFI. So once I say, oh, now the bottom is probably in, I go out of the pool, I have more DFI than I had before. So I basically bought more, and then I shift to another pool. So if you expect a sideward or down market, you can go into USDD DFI, or it's always sideward or down compared to what. So DFI versus USDD, then you go into USD into that, or you go into BTC DFI because you expect DFI to fall against BTC, or the other way around, whatever your focus is. If you think DFI will pump like crazy in the next month or 2 months or half a year, like do a 10x, do a 1000%, then it's probably not smart to go into the USDD DFI pool because you risk a strong loss and you dollar cost average out of your DFI during this pump. Then you either go into a DFI BTC because you expect the whole market to pump, or if you think, no, that's just DFI. DFI has a great use case. We have the meta chain coming up, so DFI will explode compared to any other coin. I don't want any exposure in any other coin. I want only the DFI exposure. Then you just take your DFI, put it into a vault. Your DFI are safe. No loss on the DFI whatsoever, no change in the tokens whatsoever. You take the DFI into the vault, mint your token, mint DUSD and stable D token, SPY for example, put those two into a loan, into a liquidity mining, and let it work there. There you have the risk of an impermanent loss or a loss in the D tokens. So you have a shift there that you need to offset afterwards, but you get the rewards, you get the commission, and this shift is far less than your 1000% bump from DFI. But if you have a 1000% bump from DFI, you have a strong loss. You would have a strong impermanent loss if you are in the pool. If SPY moves 30% on the year, yes, and then you have a 0.5% loss.
Now we're gonna have everybody following this strategy. 100%. You're gonna see everybody's going in there. Maybe one disclaimer: this is not the investment device from Qigi side here. This is one possible move to do, and it has to fit your personal investment strategy. Not that everybody says we have to do this. We do the Kagara scenario, and now we do the Qigi scenario, and then.
That's just what exactly. No financial advice or anything. Just what I want to say is, you need to understand with every investment, every time. You need to understand what you're doing, how the market how the mechanics work of this thing, and then choose your strategy. And what I find so beautiful on DeFiChain is that you are able to choose a fitting tool for your strategy. If you think DFI will go to 0, you have something that you can do there that makes sense to go into the DUSD and just go to SPY and go to the D tokens. If you think it will be flat over the next time against USDD, you have something that's most profitable for you. If you think it will be flat against BTC, but I don't know where BTC DFI moves, that's what people did in the last weeks, where we said, okay, maybe the whole market may go down, the whole market may go up, but BTC DFI might stay relatively flat. Then that pool is perfect for you. If you think it will bump like crazy, I want to have full exposure, you go into the vault and mint your tokens and go into the liquidity mining. So there's a lot of possibilities and fitting possibilities for the different strategies. What strategy you use depends totally on your portfolio, depends totally on what you expect from the market, but you have so many possibilities. And one important thing, and that's what we basically forgot before, is this: we have now here the two cases of loss, the case of coins and the case of dollars. And what case affects you when, or what's the thing that's important for you? So if you are in a case that you bought the DFI, that you bought the USDD, so you have it in your account, in your wallet, then this case affects you, because then it matters for you how your portfolio would have performed compared to in the liquidity mining or without liquidity mining. So your impermanent loss in dollars is your loss in dollars is what's interesting. If you don't have it in your account, but you follow the everything into the vault and mint both tokens, mint the USD and mint the SPY, and put that into the liquidity mining, then you don't care about that at all. You only care about this side, because afterwards you still have the loan in the tokens. You still, if you take one DUSD as a loan, and I don't know, let's say one SPY, and pretend that it's a cheap SPY. Afterwards, you still have the loan in that amount, so you need to pay back those coins, no matter how the pool shifted, no matter what SPY is worth now. You still need that. If you do Tesla and USD and Tesla bumps by 200%, you still need to pay back your Tesla amount.
Regardless,
So if you go out,
how expensive they are, you owe a certain amount of coins or token. Yeah.
exactly, and you need to pay back this loan amount. So in this case, you would have 0.01 of the one token more. You would need to swap that to the other token, because this additional token doesn't bring you anything, because you don't want that. You just take it for liquidity mining. So you swap that to the other token, and the gap that you have here between those two, that's your loss in coins that you will need to fill from commissions, from rewards, or from whatever. So then if you mint both, the only thing that's important for you is the loss in coins, which is luckily less than the loss in dollars. So minting for the win.
Cool. So really two different losses, and they apply to two different strategies. Okay, interesting. Nobody explained it that way so far, but I think that's a very, very good input, because people tend to forget. I think the percentage in coins is normally not so much looked at. People normally always look at the dollar amount, but it's really, really important to have this other scenario as well. Cool.
I mean, I understand where this comes from, because till we had the vaults,
Yeah, it wasn't relevant, right?
this case wasn't really important for you, because it's always about the dollar value, because you own the coins. With the vaults now, you suddenly have the case that you don't own the coins, but you minted them, and therefore you have a completely different use case and scenario.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good, Kügi. Fantastic. We are longer than we thought, but I think there's so much to talk about. I think that sums it up quite nicely. Maybe one last thing, and then I hand the word over to you again. So the impermanent loss exists, yeah? So Kügi confirmed there is something like impermanent loss. But I think what he also explained very well is reversible, very important. And the second thing, always offset your earnings, your rewards that you got against this loss. And maybe, Kügi, one more question. I don't know, I think we haven't touched it yet. Impermanent loss, fair enough. How dramatic can impermanent loss be? About how many percent are we talking, for example, if one asset really explodes like crazy?
I said that before. When it bumps 100%, you are around
maybe
5%.
Let it word different. What happens if it goes 10x or 20x? Can this be so dramatic that it was really, does it kind of wipes you out on the other side? Because you constantly buy, you constantly lose coins? Give me an extreme value, just that everybody understands
it
what
can be crazy.
1,000%.
If you go 1,000%,
yeah,
your impermanent loss is 42%.
Okay.
So if you that's what I say. If you think that your one asset compared to the other will pump like crazy, it's not really smart to stay in this pool. I mean, in the end, you have 42%, but you earn the rewards. I mean,
it depends how fast it pumps, right?
It depends how fast it pumps, and it depends what's your APR. That's why the APR in the D tokens are also based on the volatility of the asset, because it needs to offset this loss risk.
Okay.
So if you think your coin or one of the coins will pump 1,000% within a few months, don't go into that liquidity pool because that you would have a loss, and your loss will probably be bigger than the rewards that you get. The question is, how realistic is it that something pumps, or how sure are you about the 1,000%? And even if you have the 1,000%, and you have a 40% impermanent or a loss when you go out, If you stay in the pool afterwards and average it out, for example, you get 50% APR and it pumps now in 1 month 1,000%. Yeah, okay, maybe it will pump another 1,000% in the next month, but that's not that likely. It's more likely that it either goes down again because it's a bubble, or it stays there and then trades there. And if you stay in this pool for a year, you get your 50% if you are at 50% rewards or something. Especially with DFI, if you think DFI pumps and your rewards are in DFI, means your rewards go up. The worst case would be to be in Tesla, for example. Or GME or whatever, some pump coin, a pump token. If you are in GME and GME pumps 1,000%, but DFI stays stable, and you are in GME DUSD, then you have your 42% impermanent loss on this 1,000% pump from GME, assuming that this is over this stays, but your rewards in DFI are not increasing. If your rewards are in DFI and you are in the DFI pool, you get DFI rewards that increase in value too. So the rewards that you get in the beginning are also worth more afterwards. So it's offsets over time. But if you think your coin will pump 1,000% in the next week, don't go into the coin versus stablecoin pool. Put it in the wallet and mint tokens.
Exactly, and stake it and be happy and get some rewards.
Exactly,
and wait for the 1,000% pump that Kügi promised now. Because Kügi said in Demystified, DFI is going to pump 1,000% and another 1,000%. Cool. Kügi, so we've seen so many scenarios, so many ifs and whens, and I think it's really good that you kind of explained in detail what makes sense, what doesn't make so much sense, and how it can be also calculated, because I think it's quite surprising how simple the audit market maker formula is. It's pretty basic, right?
It's basic math. It's really nothing.
So now we learned why we do math in school, that you then know how your impermanent loss works on a DEX. Kügi, thank you so much for taking the time for these fantastic graphics and for explaining everything in detail. Thanks everybody out there for watching. I hope that was helpful. Leave us a comment, send Kügi a nice message if you like what you've seen, and also come back with feedback, what you want to hear next. What can Kügi explain? I think he's doing an absolutely fantastic job here. And our idea is just to shed some light on some myths and maybe even bust some. Thank you so much for watching, and see you the next time when we demystify DeFiChain again. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye.